Anybody gonna hop on tonight? Hello, hello. Hey, Jen. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. Hello. See if anybody's gonna hop on tonight. Hello, hello. I'm glitching. Yeah, I kind of gathered it looked like I glitched on my end at the very beginning. So, and I suppose with the weather, it's not going to get any better. It's probably not going to get better. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. Hello. See if anybody else is going to get on tonight. There you go, Eddie. Good boy. Hopefully he stays there. He just laid down on the bottom of the bed. It's like, okay, just stay there. Be a good boy. Oh, they're hopping on and then they hop off as fast as they're hopping on, Jen. It could be a really short live tonight. And my mascara is getting in my eye. Had to buy a new one today because my mascara is so old and it's like flaking off into my eyeballs. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. So I have mascara in my eye. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. Hello. Hello, hello. See if anybody's going to stay on tonight. Or we're going to have a really, really short live. Hi, from Dallas, Texas. Welcome. Is it Lisha? What's your name? Hello, hello. Oh, I'm tired. Lisha. Okay, welcome. Glad to have you here. So we'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm just waiting for a few more people to hop on. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. Hello, hello. Let's see. All right, well, it's been a few minutes and I'm already late, so I'm just gonna get going. So if you're new here and you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. I started my TikTok in March of 2024. Let's see if I can talk tonight. And the reason I started my TikTok is because, sorry, I had a message on my other phone. I was just checking it real quick. Sorry about that. I had a message on my other phone. So the reason I started my TikTok in March of 2024 is because in September of 2023, my husband unalived himself. And that's when I discovered that I had abilities to talk to my spirit guides. And they slowly breadcrumb me to my purpose, which is to be here on social media and to help others through loss and trauma. And so, sorry, if you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you missed it, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. I only have 2 rules here. The first one is I always just ask that you just be kind. The second one is we talk absolutely no politics here. It's just not at all what my page is about. There's a million other pages out there for that, so we just don't talk about that here. I always like to say I am on my journey of life where I am, and you are on your journey of life where you are. And so we agree to disagree here. We're not always going to agree on everything. So whatever's said on my page is usually my opinion. I don't push my opinions on anybody. You can take them or leave them. But like I said, we just agree to disagree here. Usually when I go live, my spirit guides give me the topic. So tonight we're talking about overcoming challenges and what that looks like. So if you'd like to stay with us and talk about that, we're not shy here. So my community depends on you interacting with me. Hopefully your comments come through because sometimes they filter them out. I have no say in that. I have all my filters off. TikTok just does what TikTok wants to do. So like I said, tonight we're going to talk about overcoming challenges. So like I said, my page is your page. You're never interrupting me. Okay, awesome. Thank you for, oh, I get it. Yes, you are. That's where I film from almost every night. Although my daughter's moving out, so I might start filming some in my living room again. But yes, my bed is my office. So welcome. Glad to have you in my bedroom. Thank you for the badge too. I appreciate that. Okay, so tonight we're talking about overcoming challenges. What does that look like, right? Depending on the challenge in life, right? We all go through challenges. One of the things that I've learned since my husband, and I think I just glitched, one of the things that I've learned since my husband has passed, and I've been through many of challenges in the last 2 years, is that I had to change my perspective, right? So if you're going through something that's challenging, was that just another one? Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing the live. I appreciate that too. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. So like I was saying, if you missed the very beginning, my husband unalived himself in September of 2023. Okay, well, I'm seeing him on my end, so I wasn't sure. And so I've been through many challenges in the last 2 years. It's just a quick background if you're not familiar with my story. When my husband left, we were together for 32 years and he didn't leave me in a great spot financially. And so I had to figure out if I was going to stay on this planet, because in that 32 years we were together, we were only apart for 2 weeks. And so like I said, once I decided I was going to stay on this planet, I had to figure out a way to heal myself. Because he didn't leave me in a great spot financially. So therapy was out and I'm the circle that don't fit in the square. So I knew group therapy was going to be out for me also. I'm the unique girl. Hey, Wayne, did I just see Wayne hop on? He must have figured it out. And so, like I said, I've went through many challenges in the last 2 years. And one of the things I learned was changing my perspective. Not looking at everything as an obstacle, and that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, right? Usually viewing challenges as an opportunity to learn and to grow, right? And I know sometimes when you're in it, it's really hard to have that perspective, right? But it's, if you can learn to step back from whatever the obstacle is that's going on in your life or the challenge and go, okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this, right? Why is this happening for me, not to me? Generally, it makes it a little bit easier to get through that obstacle or that challenge that's going on in your life. One of the things that I also learned was your mindset, right? Not only changing that perspective, but also have positive outlook or think positive, right? Maintaining a positive outlook, focusing on your strengths and the progress that you're making. So in my case, my entire world of 32 years crumbled literally. The only thing that resembled my life after 32 years was my apartment, my kids, my grandkids, and my pets, and my friend. And so one of the things, learning to, like I said, realize the progress that you're making. This summer, it was funny. Well, last summer, let me just back up real quick. So everything that I had basically was taken from me, including possessions. And so last summer, since my husband didn't leave me in a great spot financially, I had to sell a lot of my possessions also. Whatever that wasn't taken, I sold a lot of, right? Lee, thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. Where are you from? And thank you for the likes too. And so last year, my dryer died, right? So I'm sitting here. I'm not in a great spot financially. My dryer dies. I am hanging my clothes up at night, so I have work clothes to go to work in the morning. And my fan that I'm using to dry my clothes dies. My vacuum died on me. I have 3 pets, so to have no vacuum is kind of a catastrophe also. A small one, but a little bit, or you could say an obstacle, right? Hey, Wayne, thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. Thank you for the badge, Lee. Where are you from? And so this summer, I had to remark to my boss a couple months ago. I said, my world is looking up. And he kind of chuckled and he said, why is that? And I also didn't have a car last year. My son was driving my husband's truck by my choice because I just couldn't have it around me yet. And so my son had gotten a different vehicle this year. And so I said, hey, I want the truck back. So I have a vehicle. And so I said, yeah, my world is looking up. I have a car to drive. I have a new fan. I have a vacuum cleaner now. And my maintenance guy was nice enough to bring me a dryer that he had a spare dryer at home. So, maybe those aren't huge things in a lot of people's world, but considering I didn't have any of that last summer and I had it this summer, that was something positive for me to look at, right? And something for me to be grateful for. And realizing that even though I feel like I wasn't making huge strides, I still made a little bit of progress, right? So always looking at the positive in any situation. Another thing, giving yourself grace, right? For me, this summer was easier than last summer. It was hard to want to be kind to myself because I was like, I was really down on myself. Here I was sitting, I'm a 50-year-old woman who lost everything. My entire world of 32 years crumbled. And, I'm like, I have nothing to offer anyone, right? Because I barely have anything to offer myself at this point, right? And so I was really down on myself at that time. And this summer I'm learning, maybe I lost everything, material possessions, right? Just material things. I've just learned really what's important in life and that those things are just things, right? It was just a car. It was just a camper, whatever, right? But learning that I had to be kind to myself. And so what did that look like? Practicing self-care, learning to take care of myself again. And, I am all I have, here in my little zone, right, is me. So I have to take care of me. And so self-care became very important. And it should be very important to you too, because one of the things that I've discovered is that had I taken care of myself years ago when I was a mom and a wife, maybe I would have been a little bit better of a mom and a wife had I filled up my cup once in a while, right? So if you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Thanks for the likes, Wayne. I appreciate that. And so tonight we're talking about overcoming challenges. And so one of the things that I was just saying is focus on gratitude, right? Being grateful. Realize the good things that you do have, right? When I first came home after my husband unalived himself, it was really, really, and I'm always authentic on here, and I'm never gonna tell you something that isn't true. And in my case, I can honestly say at that time, I could not find anything to be grateful for. Even though I still had my kids, I still had my apartment, I still had my pets, my friends, you know. But for me at that time, I was still struggling to find something to be grateful for, right? And as time went on, you know, it was like, no, Renee, you need to change your perspective. You have a lot of things to be grateful for, a lot of things that people don't have, right? I've met a lot of great people here on my TikTok, you know, and, you know, I've met some people that don't have a roof over their head. And, you know, it puts things into perspective of, you still have an apartment. Yeah, maybe your world crumbled, but I still have a roof over my head. I still have food in my belly. I still have my kids, my friends. You know, I have really great bosses that have been very supportive. So even if you have to just write down the little things, right? Like for me, it was, I'm grateful that I have a fan to dry my clothes so I can go to work tomorrow. I'm grateful that I have a job so I can keep the roof over my head, whatever it may be, right? And one of the things I like to tell, you know, if my kids call me and they're having a down day, I always tell them, the first thing I tell them is, sit down and write 10 things that you're grateful for today. Because you'll find when you start putting gratitude out there, that starts to trickle back to you, right? And it also has a way of kind of lifting you out of one of those kind of moods where you're starting to have a pity party and letting the challenges overcome you or overtake you. So focus on gratitude. Identify what you can control, right? So for me, it was, okay, now I no longer have a fan last summer to dry my clothes. So, you know, I just knew that I had to wash them sooner and hang them up sooner. And, you know, identifying ways that I still had control of the situation, right? So I didn't have a dryer, but I could identify, okay, well, that just means that I have to hang my stuff. Sometimes I hung it out in my balcony, whatever it is, right? Identifying what you still have control of. So if something is going on and it's challenging you, figure out, okay, maybe I don't have control of that situation, but I have control of this over here, right? Jane, thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. If you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. And so direct your thoughts and your energies to other things that you do and can control, right? Which sometimes is challenging. You know, I've had lots of challenges in the last 2 years, and sometimes it, you know, and here's another tip too. Nobody says you can't have a pity party, but I'm going to tell you what my grandma always said, right? Have your little pity party, you know, have a 5-10 minute pity party. And then like my grandma would say, she'd say, okay, girly, now pull up your big girl pants and let's go, right? And she would always tell me there's 2 types of people in the world. There's those that sit and make excuses, and there's those that find a way. And so maybe you'd need a 5, you know, just have a good cry, have a good scream, and then identify what you're grateful for, identify what you can control, and just keep moving forward, even if it's little steps, right? All right. And then support. Support is important. When I came home after my husband unalived himself, my good friend, thank God we've been friends for 21 years this year. She has been my lifesaver. She's been my life support. I've met a lot of good people on here. I see one on there right now, Mr. Wayne. He's been a great friend for the last year. Been also another great support for me. So, you know, my kids, you know, a lot of people abandon me. There again, though, you know, identifying, you know, who is your support and who isn't your support. If they're not your support, don't worry about it. Keep moving and just, you know, stick with the people who are supporting you, whether it be friends, family, and find a support system. That's why I set this page up. My community is to help support people through loss and trauma. If you're lonely and you have nobody to talk to, that's what my page is about. Aw, you are too, Wayne. I appreciate you so much. And now I've met my new friend Julie, and she's also great support and a good friend. So, and here's the thing, and this is where I struggle, right? I struggle with reaching out when I need help. I sometimes let my pride get in the way. Aw, thank you for the heart. I appreciate that. Did you have a name and where you're from? And so that's another thing. Don't let your pride stand in the way, because let me tell you, your pride is just your ego, right? Sometimes we have to just learn how to tell our ego to shut up and step out and make that call to somebody if you need them, right? And that's the next thing we were going to talk about. Knowing when you need outside assistance. For me, I'm the type of person, I kind of go in a little bit. Flawless. Do you have a name? Cindy H., thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. Arlena from West Virginia, welcome. Glad to have you here. Thanks for the likes, Wayne. I appreciate that. So if you're just hopping on, tell us who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Tonight we're talking about how to overcome challenges. And for me, when I have a problem initially, I kind of go inward, right? That's just how I'm set up. That's how my system works. I go inward and I have to kind of, wrap my brain around it. And then I will, but also know yourself well enough to know, okay, I can't handle this alone. Now I need to get outside support. That's when you call one of your friends and say, look, I'm struggling, whatever it may be. Can you help me? I reached out to a good friend the other day and I just needed to vent about something, right? And sometimes we just need that, just to be able to talk about it, just to get it off of our chest, right? And then I felt much better, right? Just getting it off our chest. So, knowing when to seek outside help and doing it and not letting pride or the ego get in the way. And then last but not least, reflect on your past experiences and how you overcame them, and identifying your strengths and how you could use them. In my case, there was one time in my life, I was in my early 20s. All my kids were pretty little. I had 4 kids at home. At that time we had 3 because my bonus daughter wasn't living with us yet. And I always refer back to this time in my life because I always think, wow, I thought it was so bad, but I made it through that. So now I can make it through this, right? And I'm just going to be flat out honest through that. So now I can make it through this, right? And I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. I had 3 little kids at home. It was Christmas time. I was broke. I didn't have gas, and I was stressed. I was like overdrawn in my checking account, and it was Christmas time. And, looking back now, I'm like, I'm not sure, I was so stressed about that. And it all worked out how it was supposed to, little things happened, little miracles in my life and things where it just worked out. But I always refer back to that time and go, wow, I remember sitting there just in tears going, what am I going to do? I can't buy gifts for my kids. I'm beyond broke in my checking account, and I needed to buy groceries for Christmas dinner, and it all worked out. It all worked out, and it always does, and that's something that I'm going to add to the conversation that I didn't write down, is just having that faith that it will all work out, and here's another thing that I didn't write down also, that I have learned in the last 2 years that I didn't realize then, is not only do you have God, source, creator, whatever, you also have a whole spirit team behind you. And they're there to help you. But because we do have free will, to a certain extent, you have to ask them, right? There's nothing wrong if you get up today and go, you know what? I'm struggling today. I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. And just invite your spirit team, look, can you just guide me and get me through today? Because I'm struggling. And they're there. That's what they're there to do. They will help you. I'm not sure if it just glitched. It glitched on my end. So anyway, identifying your strengths, you know. My son always made a joke that I was better, just as good at robbing Peter to pay Paul. I could rob their cousins too, because I just always found a way to make things work, especially financially when, you know, maybe we were a little short, and it was just, I always knew how, I always called it creative financing. I always found a way to you know, to find that extra dollar that I needed, whether it be for gas or groceries or whatever it was that my kids needed, right? So identify your strengths. For me right now, one of my strengths is that I know how to sew. And so when I need money, I make things and I sell them, you know? So identify what the problem is, figure out what your strength is, and use it, right? The divine creator, source, God, universe, whatever it is that you call it, give you those strengths and talents for a reason. So pull them out of your hat and use them. Does anybody have any questions? That's pretty much all I have, except for a couple other announcements. Anybody got anything they want to add to the conversation? You're all quiet again. Everybody's always quiet. Anybody? Are the comments? Well, Wayne commented, so I know some comments are coming through. Okay, well, while I'm waiting to see if anybody's going to comment on any of that, if you're not familiar, I do have a YouTube channel also that's under Scorpio Medium. And you can find that Scorpio Media over on YouTube. All of the videos that I have here are uploaded over there. The only difference is if you miss a live and you'd like to catch that, because they're listening. So what I was saying is that if you miss a live and you'd like to catch that, I upload those over there, so you can catch the replays over there on Scorpio Medium. I am here Sunday through Wednesday, 7:30 Mountain Time, p.m. Mountain Time. I want to let everybody know I will not be on tomorrow night because my friend and I are going to a movie. I'm taking the night off for a movie night. I need a little joy in my life, so we're adding joy this week. But I will be back on Wednesdays, and if you're new here, hence Scorpio Medium, I am a psychic medium, and I started doing mini reads on Wednesday nights, so we call them Mini Read Wednesday. So if you hop on Wednesday and you would like to hear from somebody on the other side, we do that. Or if you have a psychic question, we'll answer those. Generally, we ask one question per person. And if you're asking me a psychic question, it needs to be kind of like a yes or no, because it's really hard in that short period of time to answer long questions. But if you would ever like a full reading, you can go down into my bio and find, I have 2 emails down there, and you can email me for a full reading down there. Also, my Venmo is down there. If you would like to leave me a tip, if you enjoy my content and you would like to leave me a tip, you can do that through my Venmo. Thank you for all the likes, Julie, Jen, and Wayne, and everybody who's left the love. I appreciate that. That's pretty much everything I have tonight, guys. And has anybody got anything else they want to add? Anybody? Nobody wants to talk to me tonight? Okay, guys, well, on that note then, if nobody has anything they want to add, I hope y'all have a great night. Remember to make tomorrow great, because it is a choice. Remember, I won't be here tomorrow night, but I'll be back on Wednesday for mini reads, 7:30 Mountain Time. And until we meet again.